We're going to start off by, this has been grouped into the transformative effects of student voice or youth voice in classroom, school, and community and city. I think all of these guys could probably talk about each one of those. Yes? Yes. But we kind of split them up so they can act as experts in those areas, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is ask Caesar and Lauren to talk about their impact on their experience with student voice in the classroom and their impact. So why don't we have Caesar go ahead and go first, and then we'll move on to Lauren, because you're so close.
Hey. Yeah. So, I don't know what you
Hello? Oh, so just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you've done at Mather and your experiences with student voice in the classroom.
Well, I'm Caesar. I'm currently a junior at Mather High School. Some experiences that I've been through at Mather since my freshman year, I've actually been in charge of GSA through my sophomore year. That's when I started doing a little bit more organization planning because of Freedom School really helped me out and taught me out how to well organize, especially with young people, not knowing that young people could be adults as themselves as well towards other young people. I think that's one thing that I kind of helped myself out with, how to organize again, like in school itself. That's about it.
Well, my personal experience with school is I learned to connect things together to make things make more sense for me. And I enjoy dance, so I can learn how to make dance be involved with another subject, for say anatomy. And dance involves your body movement, and so does anatomy. And I also can connect dance with math, because math involves making shapes, and a simple fifth position plie can be a diamond. And also, outside the classroom activities help me learn more, such as field trips, because it teaches you that beyond the textbook, you can apply what you're learning to something in the real world. And also, to do things like that, I feel like teachers have to have some type of faith in themselves, and they have to be brave, because the structure is to only be held in the classroom, but I feel like it can be outside the classroom as well.
So what we're looking to hear specifically about is your experience with student voice in these roles, right? So this is your chance to just talk about who you are, what you've done, brag about yourselves a little bit, and then we're gonna move on to some more specific questions, okay? So let's go to student voice in school. So student voice in school, we have Representatives Bea Eusebio from Alcott and Barbara Cruz from Hancock. Who would like to start? I'll let you guys pick.
I'll start. Hi guys, I'm Bea Eusebio. Can you hear me? I'm sorry. So I got involved through my peer influence actually during sophomore year, and also the fact that my teacher representative, Ms. Van, was really eager for me to join, so that made me want to join Social Justice League, or MICFA. And Social Justice League or club focuses on issues that involves the community and Alcott. In the beginning of the year, we discuss issues and we do little brief research about different kinds of issues, and then we narrow down to that one issue that we want to focus on throughout the year. And that's when we do a lot of research, a lot of surveys with the students, that if they really care about this, that we should change this. And we do a lot of panels also, and yeah, so. Here.
I feel really bad because I'm going to talk for a while. Okay. So as was mentioned earlier, I've been part of CPS Democracy Fellows for the past 4 years since I was a freshman. Through the Democracy Fellows, we do a lot of work centering around student leadership and student activism, basically bringing together students with student voice. I've also been a part of the Student Voice Committee at Hancock since it started 2 years ago. As Abe mentioned earlier, it's a student voice committee is basically you pick an issue within your school and you begin working with administration in order to solve this issue. So an example would be we had a school who didn't have clean drinking fountains. You know, water is a basic human right, but they didn't have that. So these students worked together with administration, with engineers, to actually get new drinking fountains in their school. For my school, we had an issue where we had inconsistent rules with our security. We ended up just talking a lot with our principal, with people in charge of the hiring practices, and we were able to this year finally, have the chance to get students actually involved in the hiring of new security guards and in the training of new security guards. So a lot of what the Democracy Fellows do is sort of bring these students and these student voice committees together. Students need a place to be together, safe spaces to sort of show their shared struggles. Democracy Fellows is student-led. We're all students in high schools, and that sort of makes it all the more that much of a safe space where students aren't really afraid to sort of offend anyone because they know we understand where they're coming from. And with our work of overseeing student voice committees, one of the biggest challenges is sort of just getting students in the door. But once we saw now that once we have students who feel like they're a part of something, then they begin to feel like they belong, and then they stay. A lot of times, students don't really speak up, and that's not really because they're apathetic. The reason for that is because students are getting shut down. Students have, they've been so used to this environment where they're taught to listen, but not to speak up. No one ever asks these students, what do you want to see? No one really asks them, what are you missing? So, an example, TV, sorry. The CPS board, right? They have one student representative, and they don't even have voting rights. So the student voice committee sort of give this sort of place where students can have this platform that they've never really had before. And it allows them to, interview other students to find out the problems in their school, but also to interview teachers, to put them on this equal level to sort of build a collaborative relationship. Ultimately, it's about asking, student voice committees is about asking that question of what do you want to see? I've seen the culture at my school specifically change over the past 4 years due to faculty and principal meeting with students and just asking that very question. And sort of for this question of how can students contribute to a decision-making process in school, that's kind of a misleading question. Students want to contribute. They always have. They've just never had that stage to. The opportunity to do so meaningfully is really rare. Involving students does not always mean teaching them the skills to stay involved and to make these decisions. Having kids involved with no real power doesn't really help them learn how to make these decisions, have this say. And a better question would be, how can schools guarantee students will be part of the decision-making process? And last thing, I swear. Really all adults, not just teachers and principals, but also security guards, custodians, librarians, interns. Basically, every adult in the building has a responsibility to build a relationship and cultivate a healthy school culture. Understanding and respecting your students, that allows you to see that back tenfold. And that's basically how you really build this sort of thing. I'm sorry I talked so long. Okay.
Not at all. Perfect. Good job. Let's move on to student voice in the community and city with Heaven and Carlil. Heaven, ladies first.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Yes? Okay. So, hi, my name is Heaven Johnson, and I'm a junior at Lindblom Math and Science Academy. I recently got involved with MICFA Challenge last summer because I heard about the opportunity through an email my counselor sent out to everyone at our school. So I followed through with the application process, and I was lucky enough to join the Teen Health Council, as we like to call it. But most importantly, MICFA aims to bring together Chicago youth of diverse backgrounds to educate teens on maintaining a healthy and safe lifestyle. They offer a variety of counsels such as education or health, juvenile justice, as Bea is on, after school matters, and even interning at elected officials' offices. But on our Teen Health Council, I've learned a lot about leadership, power, and policies. Over the summer, our goal was to create an ad campaign that would bring awareness to sexual education. So each week we would find different facts or statistics that would help us in creating our overall concept. And we all made ad designs, and as a council, we voted on one. And we were now able to create what we like to call Chicago Wears Condoms. You actually have bracelets on you guys' tables if you guys see them. And so basically, we got this idea because we found statistics that Cook County ranks number 1, 2, and 3 for gonorrhea, chlamydia, and syphilis. So that was our driving force behind why we created the campaign, because not everyone knew this, and we wanted to bring awareness to it. And so at the end of the summer, we took our ad campaign and presented it to the Chicago Department of Public Health, and we're now working to get advertisements on billboards in high schools, condom dispensers, and everything like that throughout the city. So if you guys want to take the bracelets and you can show your friends, or hashtag Chicago Wears Condoms, as we like to call it. But although we chose to focus on sexual health, we saw other prevalent issues related to health and wellness that teens do care about. This past April, we distributed a survey to find the answer to the question, what do teens care about when it comes to health and wellness? And we found that many students say they suffer from not having places to exercise, not being provided healthy food options while they're at school, as well as a lack of resources such as condoms and facilities for teens to go to. But in hopes of improving these issues that the students addressed, there were certain health projects that our council thought would be effective, such as taste tests or healthier options that gave students the ability to have a say in what went on their school menus and what they had to eat every day. Also, a lunch line redesign. So basically where you redesign your lunchroom to show students, the healthier options first, such as the salads and fruits, rather than chicken sandwiches and pizza, all the time. The next idea that we had were vending machines with healthy snack options and fruits, so, to provide students with energy throughout the day. After school fitness clubs that were open to everyone in their school, or even creating a workout center. School condom availability, such as providing condom dispensers in bathrooms and in nurses' offices, and STI testing made available at their schools. But while these are only ideas, we see long-term effects benefiting the students and the faculty. But as an overall, thing about MICVA, before joining, I would have never thought that any of the concepts that I mentioned above were possible, but I now know that that's far from right. I've been able to work with adults who want to see me succeed and make change in the city. They've taught me what I need to know about they taught me what I need to know when you need to bring something to the table to people in power, or certain people who are in office, and creating a plan, or basically forming a relationship so that you get to know who you need to know to get what you want done. I've gained lots of confidence, and I know now that anything a teen wants to accomplish is possible. However, working on a policy at a citywide level calls for much teen-adult collaboration, which isn't there now. Teens are sparking with interest in ideas and innovative things, but they never form these relationships with adults because the adults only know the technicality behind things, while the teens and activists don't really know who to approach or who to talk to. But without this connection, we as teens won't be able to bridge the gap between teens and adults that cause miscommunications and not understanding each other. But through MICVA and other councils and projects like this, we want to bridge that gap and get teens and adults working together to reform issues in the city. So.
Okay. Thanks, Carlo.
Hi, my name is Carlil Pittman. I'm a youth organizer from Communities United and Voice. I've been a member of Voice for, since 2011, my senior year of high school. And basically what Voice focuses on is harsh discipline in CPS schools. So some of the things we've dealt with, suspending students for minor infractions, things like chewing gum, talking on the phone. Students been suspended for 10 days, like myself. When I was a sophomore in high school, I was kicked out of school for cutting the class. And because they kicked me out, I couldn't get into any high school. I went to like 5 different schools. It took 3 months for me to get back to school, which made the rest of high school extremely difficult to graduate on time. So when I got into school at Gage Park, I was able to, I found out about Voice, and Voice just loved my story and loved me, and I love Voice ever since. So I'm really passionate about this. What we do is we have a group of students all across Chicago, and we try to think of ways that we can better CPS, change CPS policy. We do a lot of trips, lobbying, going around, things like that. One of the things that Voice focuses on, last year we were able to pass a bill, which was, let me see, Bill 2793, which is the law that says all schools have to make their discipline public. If you suspended a student, expelled the student, you have to put public for why, so they can make sure that it adds up to the reasons for students being suspended, kicked out of school. Right now, we're focusing on another bill, SB 100, which is the Common Sense Discipline Campaign, which says you can't suspend students for 10 days for minor infractions. The most you can suspend a student for would be 4 days. If you want to suspend them for longer than that, then you have to prove that they're a threat to the school or something like that. And we also focus a lot on restorative justice because we don't want to push students out of school. The goal is to keep them in school, and all students deserve a second chance. Also, I'm sorry. Yeah, so, yeah.
It's okay, you got it. You sure?
Yeah, okay. I'm getting stuck. Go ahead.
You got it.
Yeah, that's it.
You sure? If you think of it, you're going to be able to tell us more about it later.
Yeah.
I promise.
I'll cut you off.
All right, cool. All right, good. I appreciate that. My kind of guy. Okay, so there's a lot of questions that we have for you, and I hope that through this brief explanation of what Youth Voice is or means to you, we're getting a better idea of exactly what we're talking about. When we're talking about Youth Voice, I think it was you, Barbara, that said something like Youth Voice. So we're talking about
Involving students.
Yeah. So. What are some of the ways in which you have seen schools or teachers or any adults involving students? Just to clarify that really quick. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page when we're talking about student voice.
So yeah, I guess the biggest example would be what I had brought up about, the CPS board, how they have a student representative. So, you can say, hey, we have students involved in the process of making these decisions, but then that student doesn't actually have any voting power and is basically just eye candy. It's just one of those things where a lot of the organizations, I guess, in power want to say that students are involved with the things that affect them, but it's just a sort of a facade where they're not actually involved. They're only sort of involving them in that they're just sort of there and they're sort of hearing everything that's going on, but they don't actually understand how to do these things, how to make a decision, how to facilitate a meeting, how to, yeah.
So you can plan a dance, student government kind of thing, but you don't have any voice in policy or change.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that because you guys are here and a lot of the young people are here. Raise your hand if you're a young facilitator, a student facilitator at a table. Raise your hand. You guys will be able to talk to these guys later. But we're talking about the transformative nature of youth voice, right? In the classroom, in schools, and in community. So I want to start with you, Caesar, okay? Because you didn't get a chance to talk about how awesome Freedom School is that much because you were the first person. I'm really sorry, so I'm going to have you direct to that. I want you to think about who you were before you found these youth voice opportunities and how it changed you after, and maybe elaborate on your work with that as you answer that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Go.
So before I kind of walked in the steps of Freedom School, the famous yellow walls there, I was a very one-track mind person, that one formula way where adults normally have the voice in everything. Just sitting in the classroom and just listening to the teacher just speak all day and all day and all day for 8 hours every day, Monday to Friday, right? it gets annoying. Sorry, but it gets annoying. It's a constant thing that, young people are not meant to be heard, just meant to be seen. And that's the way that I basically grew up before I stepped into the door at Freedom School. And going through that every day is just internalized oppression that, you're not, you as a young person, you have no voice in school, like they had previously said. But, going through my experience at Freedom School, it really did shift my mind a lot, greatly. Mainly because, Freedom School's mission is to create a new generation of critical thinkers, is to start thinking about everything that a teacher does or a teacher says, even if it's something that has to be adultist. A little bit going into what adultist means is basically oppressing a young person by an adult, kind of like young people cannot vote until they're 18, or you're too smart for a 15-year-old. But my favorite one is like young people are meant to be seen, not meant to be heard, and I think it's like one of the most like controversial things that are mainly seen in school, that us young people are not strong enough to voice their opinions in school. Going on to that, going through 4 weeks in the summer, learning about anti-oppression and, learning that power that young people have in class, and not only in classrooms, but everywhere in the world. We do have a power in it, and I learned how to use that power as a young person. I later on got to co-facilitate workshops, which is the adultism workshop. I got to facilitate the School of Prison Pipeline workshop that I created with my group like 2 years ago. That really did help me out a lot through my experiences. At the same time, during those 4 weeks, I was learning who I truly was, and learning those untruths, those biases that I was being taught when I was young, how you must always go by the values and guidelines that a teacher does. But truly, if you want to be an adult ally with young people, especially in classrooms, I think you have to learn how to respect values and guidelines of them as well, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are being in that classroom with you for 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday. And, going through the Freedom Fellowship, they do cherish values and guidelines because we're there from 10 till 5. And, we get to choose our values and guidelines, like don't yuck my yum will be one of my favorite values and guidelines, like say that I per se like Cheetos and pickles together, and someone says, "Oh, that's disgusting." We have to learn how to respect, like, oh, hey, never mind. Like, let me think. Like, that's his liking. Hey, don't. Hot Cheetos and pickles are pretty good. That's one huge experience that Freedom School really taught me is to be myself and use my power as a young person to organize and to challenge things to its limits, especially with adults, because at the end of the day, I want the same equal opportunity and the same power as you, because that's how we build solidarity with each other, and that's how we build community. And that's after the 6-month training of the Freedom Fellowship that I did. I started pointing out the isms and oppressions every day, like, that's very adultist, or that's very religious. I'm like, I'm gonna avoid that situation. And then, through that experience, I started picking arguments with teachers at the same time. I think one of the most memorable ones was like last year, where a teacher kept calling me a kid. I personally do not like being called a kid. It means it's an oppressive term towards young people, because kid or kids actually means baby goat. So I try to avoid that when I'm teaching young people or young folks. She kept repeating, calling me a kid just to like pick on me in a way. But I felt like that was not very respectful of herself at the same time, because I showed these values and guidelines that I wanted to be respected, but the teacher completely avoided it. And continued to call me a kid until like the last day of her retirement year, which was last year, which I'm happy that she kind of left, but she got the point where she was like, okay, I need to stop calling people kids. And
Good for you.
yeah, that's like my experience with the Freedom School.
Very transformative. Great story.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good job. I want to ask Lauren. Hi, Lauren. Something similar. So, Lauren, tell me if I'm wrong. Did you transfer to Curie from another school?
Yes, my freshman year, I went to Homewood Flossmoor, which is a school in the suburbs. My sophomore year, I went to my neighborhood school, which was Bogan High School. And now this year is my junior year, and I attend Curie High School.
Oh, my. So, if this year is your first year at Curie and you're here, so clearly you've been doing some big things at Curie, right? So can you talk to us a little bit about so you were focusing on the classroom, right? Mm-hmm. Is your teacher here?
Yes.
Okay. So can you talk a little bit about, is his name Mr. Heenan?
Yes.
I know him. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and what that meant to you, especially coming from, this is your third high school? That's amazing. So if we're talking about like the transformative nature of youth voice, right? Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you?
To me, youth voice is like having my input on something and getting what I want out of something. Just recently, me and some classmates in my sociology class were talking about what bothers us at school, and we decided to do our project on the self-segregation in the lunchrooms at school. So now we're going to take it upon ourselves to personally go down and talk to all the kids, and we're going to try to encourage them to integrate with each other, and we're trying to get a change in the school because we're tired of seeing everything being so segregated. And also another thing was having your voice be heard. Me personally, I get kind of frustrated when authority kind of comes at me and it's like they don't want to listen to you and they think all kids are the same. Like the deans think that every kid is the same and you get accused for the wrong things. And what I've taken upon myself is I've decided to change my attitude, and now I approach them calmly and I tell them that I'm sorry for whatever I did. And it's just like I've learned that works better for me because they're more understanding of me, but it's kind of an unfair thing that we have to go through, but it's a work in progress.
So I think that the best way to understand what this kind of work means to you guys and for all of us adults especially is to think about narratives, right, as stories. And I think that those are the best way to really convey what this power is to you guys. So I have, so let's focus on maybe Bea, Barbara, Carlil, and Heaven. I want you to think about, and I'll call on two of you guys, whoever raised their hand first. I want you to think about a really powerful event or an activity, like an action or something, like the most powerful one, the most transformative one, right? And how did it impact you or the people around you? All right, Heaven.
So as I mentioned, like with our Teen Health Council, we had to work on an ad campaign. And I would say the most memorable or significant time was when we had our decision maker meeting, which was basically where we met with the Chicago Department of Public Health and the health commissioner and everyone on the board to basically take our idea to the next level. And it wasn't until we got feedback from them saying that, you know, oh, you guys' ideas were great, and, you know, we want to work with you guys to improve this and get it throughout the city, that it wasn't until then that I realized youth voice and collaboration is actually meaningful, because I always felt like, you know, if you had a complaint about school or something going on in your community, that there was nothing that you can do about it because the adults would always be the one to have a say-so in what happened, and, you know, the teens just had to go along with the flow and there was nothing that you can do. But to have an issue that me and my council saw as a problem, and then having adults like, you know, confirm that it was an issue and believe in what we wanted to do, I think was a very like gratifying feeling to know that, you know, you do actually have the support. It's just all about how you approach them and what you bring to the table and how you present yourself. So
Awesome. Who else? We can call on more people.
Well,
Go ahead.
So I was sort of similar as to some of the other students. They talked about, I'll just go into mine. Love talking about myself. So, in middle school, I was a very I was a good student. I was one of the top students in my class. I did everything. I don't know what happened. But, I did everything that was ever expected of me and beyond. But I never really got involved with, student activism or youth voice. I didn't really believe in that. I was sort of one of those people who thought it doesn't really matter. No one's going to listen to us. We're just teenagers. So when I joined the Democracy Fellows in November of 2011, I went into it sort of wary. I wasn't really sure what was going to happen to it. I sort of still was stuck in that belief of, I don't really believe in this. I don't really know what's going to happen. Why would anyone listen to us? However, December of 2011 rolled around, and that was when we had our annual winter conference here in this building at DePaul, actually right downstairs under us. And I actually ended up being able to host that year. Me as a freshman with stage fright, having to host for 300 people was very frightening. But sort of being able to stand there and sort of see all these students from all over CPS, their teachers, their counselors, their facilitators, and sort of being able to sort of stare out at them and sort of realize wow, all these people want to make change. And these people look like me. They come from neighborhoods like mine. All these people are working to make change. I kind of want to be a part of that. And so that sort of just kick-started sort of a new passion for activism, for student involvement, because I had never ever had anything that sparked my interest like that. But just looking out to a crowd of 300 people and seeing so many hopeful eyes, sort of similar to today, I guess, it was something that was honestly really life-changing for me, so.
Awesome, thank you. Bea Carlil, you got some? Yeah. Here's some water.
You go first.
Okay. Voice is a youth-led organization. Everything is student-led, student-based, and there was a time with the bill that we're trying to pass now, where we were in Springfield lobbying for it, and there was a negotiation table with CPS and all of these different people from different boards, and we were all at the room for waiting on Senator Lightfoot. And one of the people, we were going to walk in, she said, if you're not going in to make some decisions, if you're not in charge of helping with this, or you don't have a say on this, don't come in here. So we're like, okay. So there was about 15 of us, all young people, and we all walked in, sat at the table, and they're sitting there like, why are they sitting at the table? And the senator's like, this is their bill. So I thought that was really powerful for us, because they tried to shut us down, like, you shouldn't be here. And Voice basically shows that students should be able to control what's in their future. Since they're the ones that have to deal with it, who else is better to tell you what the problem is?
Awesome. So there's I have a lot of questions, and I'm having a hard time. What? I know that she wants to. Can you do, all right, go, babe.
Okay, I'll be fast. So
It's okay.
Last month, I had the opportunity to organize kind of like a panel, also Fulbright scholars from all over the from outside of the country visited Alcott and wanted to learn about youth voice and Alcott and how we use youth voice at Alcott. I just totally used that. Like I said, I had the opportunity to organize it myself, and I felt empowered. It was my first big kind of accomplishment, and it was just like, I organized it myself, and I was like, whoa, Bea, you came a long way. And what surprised me the most is that there was like one teacher representative, but everyone in my club respected me as a leader and stepped up and be as a leader also. Like, they didn't disrespect me. They didn't like fooled around. They knew that it was a big event and that they had to focus on the event. Also, the students that came from Fulbright were in their mid-20s, ready to learn how Alcott used their youth voice, and et cetera. And they were very respectful. Like, we had a panel also kind of like this, and they were asking us questions about what have we done as student leaders, and they were just very open-minded. And they listened to us, and they wanted to hear everything step by step, or what we have done in the past. And they thought that we were influential, you know. I thought that was a very powerful activity for me, so yeah.
It's great. I'm a teacher. I have to stand. I can't talk to you guys sitting down. So, you know, as a teacher who tries to do this in her classroom and build this in the school and work with teachers across the city that do this kind of thing, personally, I think that the biggest challenge I have is getting anyone else who doesn't get the benefit of interacting with young people like you to convince them that this matters in learning, right? Because that's what school is about, yes? Learning, preparing you for college and career and all these big things and big tests and all that, right? So what does this have to do with that? What kind of skills and knowledge do you gain that could convince other people that this is more important than those big tests? Don't all jump at once. Carlisle is calling you. Grab the mic.
I think some of the skills that you learn from this, there are a lot of leadership skills that come out of this, a better understanding of what's going on. Before I joined Voice, there's a lot of things that I was put onto that I didn't realize were an issue before I was a part of Voice. It teaches you how to speak up. You get skills with speaking to people, with meeting new people, and I think it really prepares you for a life after high school, a career after high school, and also helps you pick what direction you want to go in afterwards.
For me, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
I can. So we're thinking about learning, right?
Yeah.
What are the skills? What's the knowledge? What do you
Okay.
acquire? How do you grow as a student?
For me, not everything that we are taught in class can be taken after, you know, like job-wise. For example, I'm for sure not going to be using math in social work. So it's just good to learn skills that are not, you know, they're not taught in class. So yeah, if that makes sense.
Okay, I have a lot to say about this.
So I can't believe we're already running time, so I'm going to ask you guys to keep it to like a minute each.
Okay, first off, students are not products. Stop testing us. That's one thing. Also, I don't appreciate these long tests to show our knowledge in numbers, especially the ACT. I hate it so bad. I am a horrible test taker. I hate it. I got an 18, but whatever. It's not a number to show where I stand. It's a number to basically internalize my oppression, to make you feel like you can't get into a state school, you can't get into a university, you can't get into Loyola. So I really do not like these high state test scores because they're really just oppressing students. It's really just making you feel bad about yourself. It's just, you know, I've always talked to like students and every day in the hallways, like, how do you feel? I'm gonna take this test so serious. I'm like, I'm just not even gonna bother. I'm just gonna take this test, do my best I can, and whatever, you know. But, you know, like I said, students are not products. Stop looking at us like we're an assembly line. Just, you're not preparing me for college. I'm preparing myself for college.
But is participating in any of these activities, like when we're talking about skills, right? Let's look at the basics: reading, writing, math, speaking, listening, right? And there's a lot of different sub-skills that go under that. As a teacher, I'm a youth advocate, I run a club, but I'm an English teacher. I care that you can write with power and speak with power. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about making change and transformation in youth voice, isn't it? Yeah? Isn't that why we're teaching you these skills in class? So how does this help you do that?
Well, I don't like learning Eurocentric history with English. I personally like knowing American literature. I love it. But when it comes to learning these different skills, it's just basically you're learning the same thing every day. It gets boring. I feel like students should have an advantage of learning different opportunities of English majors, like how you did. I feel like it shouldn't just be a one-track thing, especially with these tests. Like it's just a one-track thing. I should be able to learn different types of Englishes in high school. It shouldn't just be you have to learn American literature this year, but now you had to switch over to British literature. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. But that's about it. Yeah.
I think just to kind of expand on what he said, what we do learn in school, I will say that it's helpful, like with the writing skills and speaking skills because, we have to use those skills. But I don't think that we get the opportunity to use them until we come to panels like this or have meetings and are a part of clubs and fellowships that we really find or expand on what it is that we have learned in school. And so it's like school is giving us the basic fundamental of, okay, yeah, here's how you read and write, but you don't find out your abilities or what you're capable of until you take it somewhere else outside of the classroom or outside of your school. And I think that you shouldn't have to do that because school is about, becoming or finding who you're going to be in life or what you want to do at least. And we're not always given that opportunity in school because like Caesar was saying, we're just a product and we're just like taught to, you need to learn this for the test or learn this to do that. And it kind of hinders our growth in high school and we have to wait until college or until we start a career to actually find out what we're capable of. So.
Good job. Way to build off each other, you guys. Good job. You're doing great. Almost there. We got 3 minutes left before we break out, and then we're going to come back to more questions at the end. So I think I'm really curious about the challenges, right? So and I want you to think about this as a challenge for you as an individual, but also the young people that you work with, or the adult allies that you work with, or even the adult non-allies that you've experienced, right? What do you see to be the greatest challenges? And if you have overcome any, like what have you done? And I'm looking at maybe Lauren? No? Bea? Two of our, yeah, Lauren? Okay.
So I'm talking about the challenges I overcame.
Yeah, what are the greatest challenges for you doing this kind of work? Student voice, youth voice, getting involved.
Okay. Well, before I started trying to think about getting involved in things, I was more so used to being told what to do and following the guidelines. And personally, I'm a very shy person, so to be with a group of people and talk about what I want to do and have them listen to me, I kind of had to come out of my shell a little bit. So basically, I overcame shyness and I got more confidence with talking to people and stuff.
Some challenges that I dealt with, I think it was like the past weeks. I had to facilitate the school prison pipeline, and I was kind of shocked that I was teaching the workshop to like 6th and 7th graders, and I've never taught the workshop to like such a younger crowd. And just thinking back to myself, I'm like, oh my God, this is like the youngest group I've ever taught. At the same time, I had to hold myself accountable of learning the languages that I have to use and how not to be adultist at the same time, because I could be adultist to younger people. So I think that's one challenge I had to like kind of overcome and kind of remind myself and holding myself accountable with these values that Tony taught me and Xavier taught me how to hold myself accountable, especially with working with younger people, especially younger people my age, and especially with adults, because it's kind of tricky working with adults, especially when they see a young facilitator facilitating an adultism workshop or a school prison pipeline workshop. So it's really, I think that was like one of the biggest challenges working with young people and of course an older crowd as well.
Yeah.
Just really quick, I think sort of looking at it from the teacher aspect in my experience, I think it's just really hard to sort of reach that, I guess, sweet spot of having a teacher facilitator who understands how to get the work done but doesn't overwork your student voice committee, as well as isn't someone who isn't so not serious about the work that nothing gets done. With students, it's a very hard sort of place to reach that plateau, I guess. Especially because, honestly, there's a lot of teachers out there, I'm sure we all know, that sort of have had those days where they're just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And to be honest, like, that happens a lot. There are teachers out there who are just giving up on students. Coming from a school that I come from, a neighborhood school on the southwest side, I see that every day. But what I found sort of kind of wakes them up sometimes is the thought of, you know, you guys are paid to care. If you guys don't care about us, who will? And it's just sort of realizing that if the people who are paid to sort of have faith in us as students, as young people, as leaders, they don't, then we're not going to have faith in ourselves as leaders to make change, to go to college, to have a good life. So that's what I'll say on that end.
One of the challenges that I've seen is that, kind of piggyback off what Caesar said, is that because voice is student-led, a lot of times people who are in charge, they don't want to listen. They have a hard time trying to gain their respect. There's been times, recently I've started doing youth outreach to different high schools. And I was at a school, and I had a meeting with a counselor, and she never met me before, so I emailed her, and she's like, okay, yeah, I'd like to meet you, and I go up there, and she's just standing there, and she's looking around, and I'm like, and she's like, aren't you a student here? And I'm like, no, you see my beard? And it's like the whole meeting, she just brushed me off, like, oh, no, we don't need that here. Oh, no, we have somebody for that. Oh, no, and I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. You're not trying to listen to me. And so I was like, until they hear us speak and hear all the knowledge that we have and all the things they think we don't know about that we have the answer to. And it's like, oh, you guys were a part of that? And we're like, yeah, that was us. So, yeah.
Awesome.
So one of the biggest challenges I had to overcome last year was in my junior year, which is, all of us know if you've been through junior year, it's the busiest year of all time. We have ACTs, you know, we have to prepare for college and all that stuff, and we have to get our grades up. So one of my biggest challenges was time management. As some of you may know, I'm probably like a part of 5 different clubs at Alcott, and it was really hard to manage that, especially being a part of AP classes. And I just struggled so much that I wish, you know, teachers could understand that, oh, she's in a lot of classes, or she's in a lot of clubs, that I should probably like cut her some slack. But it's not totally favoritism. It's just you have to, you know, understand. So yeah, that was one of my biggest challenges last year.
So it's like communicating too.
Yes.
So there's a lot of teachers in the audience. There's future teachers in the audience. There's a variety of adults in different positions around the city, right? Maybe even some principals, yes, or future principals. So what kind of advice can you give, say, future teachers or teachers or administrators about bringing in this work into schools, getting more students involved, more teachers involved? What do you think that you can give that will leave us running back to our schools to start building more youth voice? And I'd like to hear from everybody, but I'm going to ask you to keep it to a minute or less.
I would say the biggest takeaway, I think, would be for teachers or for principals to show that you care and have interest in your students, because I think that so many of us feel like there's this disconnect between our teachers and, you know, they don't care about us, or, you know, they don't want to see us succeed, when in reality, I mean, I kind of feel like you guys do, at least I hope. And I think that if you show them that you want to help them and you guys want to like make the connections to get to know each other, to talk about issues at your school, to get issues resolved, then that'll at least be the stepping stone for making something better at your school or changing or, you know, getting something done. Because like I said, without this connection or relationship, you know, there's just going to be this distant kind of feel in your school, and you'll never understand each other. You'll never try to understand each other. So I think that just bridging the gap at least will be like a good starting point for that.
Carlo?
Okay. I guess one thing would be to, I would say it's always good to keep a student's voice in your ear. What better way to what better way to make decisions for students than to have students helping you make those decisions, since they're being affected by it. So I guess that's one thing to take away from it.
I agree with Carla. And also, the second thing would be like, be really passionate about, you know, creating that club or being passionate about youth voice. Because as long as you're passionate about it, then it gives us a reason to stay and to learn more and to be enthusiastic to learn about it. And, you know, to continue that club to make it extraordinary. And always be open-minded. You know, we know that you have, you know, your personal opinions, but we have ours too, and it's good to, you know, share discourse between each other. So yeah.
I would say communication, because you never really know what a student thinks or how they feel about what you're teaching or what you may say or how you may discipline them. I think that communication is a big factor on how smoothly things can run between you and another student.
Got a couple more?
Yeah. So, you know, I guess just keeping in mind, you know, honestly, we're in school with you guys, 7-8 hours a day. To be honest, that's more time than I spend with my parents. And, you guys also spend a lot of time with us. If you guys, again, don't respect us and don't put faith in us, then it feels like no one does. Again, I don't kind of want to be cliche, but just sort of realize, you know, your students have problems and struggles of their own. And my school's just lucky to have administrators and teachers who have broken their backs trying to help students who have lost someone or who's having trouble getting food in their mouths. And it's just like, there's so many people at my school that are like that, but that's not everybody. That's not every adult in the school. So I guess sort of realizing that you can be one of two types of people as you move into being an educator, and it's sort of up to you to decide which one you want to be.
Last?
I think some things that I normally like to tell adults, especially for young educators that are going to go out into this field, is just know oppressive language. Like, know what's happening in the classroom. Like, say someone says like that's so lame, like that's very oppressive towards people who have a disability or something. Practice popular education, which is strongly. I strongly believe in popular education because it's equal power towards everybody in the circle. And, everybody has power. It's not just the teacher. It's student-teacher, teacher-student. So we all learn from different experiences. Like showing the values and guidelines of students, help build that community with them. Let them know that they're being heard, and let them know that they are being respected in the classroom. Because I feel like that's the most critical thing to have, is just to know that they have their values and guidelines respected in this classroom that they're going to be in for 41 minutes or longer. Yeah, those are it.
That's awesome. Please give them a big round of applause. Yeah, I'm gonna.